Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at PikaOS. Now, this is a gaming-focused Linux distribution built on Debian. Now, this is for those of you that don't want to maybe go down the Nabara or the PikaOS route, and you want to try something a little bit different, while still having pretty good functionality. And I think overall, this community has really done something really cool. The install process is very, very simple. I feel like overall, it is very beginner-friendly. So, let's just jump right in and see what we need to do. So, while we're on the main page here, all we have to do is actually scroll down, and we're going to start to begin to see that we have a couple different editions that we can download. Now, unlike things like PikaOS that allow you to do this during the install, this one we have to choose the right ISO we want to use. So if we want to go with GNOME or KDE, or even maybe Hyperland Edition or Nerdy Edition, and we also have Cosmic. Now, again, many other YouTubers out there will also tell you not to use Cosmic. It is out in the wild now. It does work okay, but I would not recommend it for first time or beginner users because there is a lot of issues that you're going to run into and a lot of headaches, and it'll just kind of put you off from Linux. Alright, so for the purpose of this video, we're going to actually go with the GNOME edition. It's just the first one you get on the web page, and I think that's a good one we'll just stick with. Now, you have two different ISOs that you can download. There is the standard ISO and the NVIDIA ISO, but be aware of this big red banner here that says NVIDIA ISOs should only be used for NVIDIA RTX cards and GTX 1650 or later. GTX 1080 Ti's and earlier should just use the regular ISO. So take this information in, know what kind of graphics card you have. If you don't, use something like ChatGPT to just help you figure out what kind of graphics card you have in your system. Now, with that bit of knowledge here, we're just going to go ahead and hit the standard ISO, and it's probably going to take a couple minutes to download. Now, my connection is pretty quickly, but it is a 2.7 gig file. So once this is downloaded, we'll get the machine all set up and ready to show you the install. Now that we have the ISO downloaded, what we're going to need to do is actually put this onto a USB. And the best way to do that if you're on Windows is going to be Rufus. Now, I did put Ventoy in the description down below for those of you that might be on Linux already and maybe want to just put it onto a different USB that you can try out PikaOS, but this is really up to you. But for the sake of the video, we're going to be taking a look at Rufus. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this downloaded, and then I'll be back. Now, I did want to quickly mention that there is another way to get Rufus downloaded as well. If you are on Windows, you can actually go to the Microsoft Store and just look up Rufus and actually download it from here. It's just another way that you can get the product easily. Alright, with that information out of the way, we have just plugged in our USB, and I know it's a 16 gig drive. Mine does say it's Fedora KDE Live. I was playing around with a different distro. So we'll just go ahead and make sure you can hit that drop down and select the right USB if you have multiple plugged in. Definitely recommend if you do have multiple plugged in and you're just trying to build a boot image right away, unplug those other devices just for the sake of this process. Now that we selected our device, we'll just simply go here and hit the boot selection. We'll hit select. Now we'll go under the boot selection, we'll hit select, and then you can just find whatever ISO you downloaded. Now this one's going to look a little different because I've downloaded a couple different versions of it just for the sake of this demo. We'll go ahead and do that, and that's it. That's all you need to do before you hit start. There's no other settings you need to adjust. Just go ahead and hit start. Hit OK because it is going to wipe out the drive, and then afterwards just boot from your USB, and then we'll take it up from there. Alright, so here we are with the machine. We're about to just boot it up. I do have it set up to boot off the ISO. Now, there is a different operating system installed on this disk, but what we're going to be doing with this install is we're just going to be wiping that out. And I'm doing this because I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be coming over from Windows, and this might be the approach that you need to do as well. Alright, so this is our screen on boot up. Now, if you leave it alone and don't touch anything, it will actually boot up to this PikaOS live image from the 81 megabit fat volume. That is perfectly fine. You can use the arrows to kind of navigate here. We can turn off the computer. We can reboot the computer. We can manage hidden tags. That's all dandy, but we just want this main one. So if you don't see it highlighted, make sure to highlight it. and then hit enter. Now, one of the cool things about this distro is its live image actually boots up pretty quickly compared to some of the other Linux distros. All right, so now it's booted up into the live image. It's just perfect. We'll just go ahead and click in the center of the screen. That'll take us here. And this is the part where we're going to start the install. So what we want to do is install distro to system. Now, if you want to play around with this and see if this is something you want to use, go ahead and hit use PikaOS and live media. That'll allow you to just kind of play around with the operating system to see if it's right for you. That's a great thing about Linux is it actually lets you test it out before you really commit to it. But this video is about committing to it, so we're going to go ahead and hit install distro to system. First up, like most operating systems, we're going to select our language. I'm going to keep it on English, and then we'll just hit the little arrow here. It's going to show the user license agreement. Now it's going to say that PikaOS is not affiliated with Debian. It is basically just a hobby distribution that is focused on gaming, but honestly, they've done a great job. In case you need login for this session, your username is PikaOS. There is no password. It just means you press enter. Now, once you accept that, we're just going to go ahead and hit this checkbox down here, and we can hit the next arrow. Here, we're going to actually be able to choose our keyboard layout. Again, I'm in the US, so I'm just going to leave this alone. And for the time zone here, now I'm just going to leave it on America, New York. Doesn't really matter where I'm located at, but we'll just go ahead and hit next. Next up is actually going to be choosing what drive it is. Now, it says partitioning, choose a disk partitioning method. What we want to choose is automatically partition the drive. Now, this is a beginner guide, so I'm not going to go through the manual partition of the drives. I feel like that's just too advanced for some people at this level. So we'll go ahead and hit automatically. That's going to bring up another screen. Now, you're going to see this giant yellow box. What you need to do is just click this box, and it's going to list out all your drives. Be sure to click the right drive you want to install PikaOS on here, because it will be wiping out that drive with this approach. So luckily, I only have one disk here. We're just going to go ahead and hit that one and hit done. The other option that it gives you is going to be enable LUKS 2 disk encryption. Now, if you're on a laptop or something like that and you're going to be using this, I would definitely recommend using the disk encryption, because if it gets lost, stolen, or anything like that, your data is a little bit more safe. But do know, this is a big warning here. If you forget this password, getting back into your system is probably not going to happen, especially at this level. So if you're going to do the encryption, make sure to write down your password. Have it stored in some sort of password manager or something of that sort. I can't stress that enough, but we're on a VM, so I'm just going to leave this alone. Now, there are advanced options if you want to start choosing like different target disk formats and stuff like that, but we're going to just leave it alone because this is beginner. Again, it's trying to make this as easy as possible for you. We'll just go ahead and hit next now. Here we go for the installation summary. Now, one thing you're going to notice is it didn't ask us for a username and password, and it actually will set that up in a little bit, which is a little weird because I feel like most distros have you set it up a little bit earlier, but we can just review our installation summary. Here we go. English for the language, English for the keyboard, our time zone, what drive we're going to be doing, and it does say will be wiped clean. The rest of it is stuff we could have changed, but basically since we're doing it on the easy mode, we're just going to leave alone. So once we're happy with that, we're just going to hit confirm and install PikaOS. Now, if you don't want to just look at the pretty screen, you kind of want to know what's happening in the background, you can always hit this little button right here, and it'll actually give you the full breakdown of exactly what's going on with the install and everything. But I don't really mind. This install actually goes really quickly, which is awesome. So I'm not really worried about it being stuck or anything. But if you're thinking, oh, this is actually taking quite a bit longer than it should, go ahead and click that button. You can kind of see if it's still doing something, or maybe it's stuck and maybe it's throwing an error within the log or something that it just is not showing up on the other screen. So that's one way to go ahead and do that. And just in my little bit of rant, it's already succeeded and installed. So now that we're at this point, we see a giant success. We can exit the installer. We can play around in the live view, but what we want to do is go ahead and hit the reboot system. Again, we're going to be presented with this. If you don't touch anything, it should default and boot you straight into PikaOS, but we want to select that one anyway, so we'll just go ahead and hit enter. All right, so now it's brought us back into the screen. Again, it's going to put us into this mode where it's like a weird view. All you have to do is just click in the center, and it's going to say welcome. This wizard will help you finish up the installation. Again, this is where we're going to actually build out our account, so we'll just hit Let's start. First up, it's going to say device connected to the internet successfully. If you get anything but this, you may want to open up the network settings and play around there, but most of the time it's actually going to do what it needs to do, especially if you're just plugging in your Ethernet. Now, if you're on Wi-Fi, it may be a little bit different, but just fiddle around with it. You should be able to figure it out pretty quickly. It's pretty self-explanatory at this point, but since our internet is successful, we'll go ahead and hit next. I do want to mention before I hit that next button that if you don't have an internet and you're like, I just want to set this up, I don't even want to play with the internet, you can skip it as well. So that's just good to know. All right, so here's where we're going to set up our account. So I'm just going to go ahead and type my name correctly. Our host name is going to be actually the computer name. So we're just going to put Divine PikaOS, and for our password we can just do something very simple like password, and then we'll go ahead and hit next. Now, since you guys downloaded the ISO and you're probably booting into this and installing it right away, you might not need to do this, but what we're going to do is it's going to ask system updates. I'm just going to hit update. If there's anything, it'll find it, it'll install. There are times where you just might get an ISO and it's just like a week out of date, so there are updates for it. We can see here that there might be even a few updates that it's going to find. It's going to go ahead and install those for you, and then as soon as it's done, we'll be able to hit OK and continue on. All right, so we can see that there was a small little amount of updates here, 246 megs out of 278 that were successful. So it was 98% successful, which is fine. I'll leave it and be happy with that. We'll just go ahead and hit OK here. Now it's going to go ahead and find any additional hardware drivers that you might need on your system. Now, mine says no additional drivers are required, which is perfect. If yours shows up, go ahead and just hit install on those. But within the updates and the install, most times I feel like I've never seen it really need additional drivers. But you know what? There are those rare cases where that will come up, and it's really nice that it actually searches for you. So we'll go ahead and hit next here. Next up is the multimedia codecs. Would you like to install additional video playback, encoding, decoding packages? I would definitely recommend it. It strongly recommends it, so make sure to hit that install codecs. Sorry, I made the screen just a little bit bigger here. We have the full 1080p picture now. So now that we've reached this point, you can just right click on the desktop, hit display settings if you want to fiddle around with it and you want to make your aspect ratio or your refresh a little bit better while you're continuing to set it up. We can just simply come back to it once it's done. So it's installed the multimedia codecs. We're just going to hit OK. Next is going to be the PikaOS gaming meta package. Now this bundle is going to include Steam, Proton, Wine, Lutris, Mango HUD, game mode, and various other controller drivers, which is exactly what you want in a gaming distro. It's a little annoying that it doesn't do this right away, but I guess that's to keep the package a little bit smaller and just allow you to download this after it's installed, which, you know what, I'm kind of happy with. So we'll go ahead and hit install meta. We'll go ahead and hit install meta package, and it's going to go ahead and install it just like it did for everything else. Again, once we see the little happy face here, we know everything is good. So we'll go ahead and hit OK, and that is the initial setup complete. All we need to do is just reboot one more time. And we can see here, like I said before, you have the automatic boot. So I think it's 20 seconds is the default. You can fiddle around with that if you really want to. I usually just do it when I'm like booting up my PC. I just kind of walk away and I know it's going to boot into what I need it to boot into. So we'll just wait for it. It's going to auto select it for us, which is great. Now, since it's booted in here, we're going to see that it actually just has us signing in. So we'll go ahead and hit our password. I chose the wrong password. Again, going to start us off with the welcome screen. So we'll just go ahead and click on that. You can uncheck it here, show on startup, if you don't want to see this anymore, which we've seen it once. So I think we're good. We'll just go ahead and close that out. Again, we're going to fiddle around here with the display settings. Just put it at 1080p. We'll go ahead and keep the changes. If you have better refresh rates, go ahead and change them there. And that's all there is to it. Now we have GNOME PikaOS installed. We should see that we have things like Steam pre-installed. We have Lutris installed. Now do note that Steam does take a second to start up because it needs to just finish its install after it has been installed on Linux before it'll actually boot up the first time. The other additional app that does get installed is the Heroic Games Launcher, which is Epic, GOG, and Amazon Games, which is pretty awesome. So everything gets installed. You're pretty much ready to go at this point. Just start signing into some stuff. You can start playing. If you hit your Windows key, you'll see that you have Chromium installed here with DuckDuckGo as your search engine, just a little bit more secure on that front. And honestly, overall, I really enjoyed this distro. I think they've done a really, really good job with it. It's definitely matured over the months that I've kind of watched it, and it's turning into something that's a little bit more special. It gives you a different flavor of Linux to play with. Instead of maybe Arch or Fedora, you now have Debian that you can play around with. I mean, there's so many distros out there, but the great thing about Linux is you can try a lot of them out. Like I said before, you can download all these ISOs, play around with their live, definitely throw them in maybe like a virtual machine or something like that. If you're really unsure at that moment, throw it in a virtual machine. I mean, you can see this tutorial is in a virtual machine. That's how I play around with these distros and kind of see what I like, what I want to share with you guys, and everything like that. Now, that's all there is to this tutorial. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you guys do try out this distro, let me know what you guys think of it down below. Happy to hear your success stories on that front. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.